Here's 200 for this month. The baby's coming soon, and there'll be plenty of expenses. Try to make it stretch. My husband Kevin flung 2 crumpled $100 bills onto the table, looking perfectly self-satisfied. Stomach bulging with 9 months of pregnancy, I stared at that 200, trembling with rage. 200? Are you trying to bribe a beggar? A sharp slap echoed as Grandma's hand smacked my face. How dare you talk to my son like that? What's wrong with 200? In our day, raising a child didn't cost a penny. My face burned with stinging pain, yet my heart ached 10,000 times more. I stared at the mother and son before me, one the biological father of my unborn child, the other the child's own grandmother. Yet they looked like 2 vicious demons, as if they wanted to devour me alive. Tina, don't be so ungrateful. Kevin frowned, his voice dripping with disgust. My mom was right, my monthly salary is only $8,000. I've got a mortgage to pay and living expenses to cover. Where would I find that kind of money for you? $200 is enough for groceries. Formula is so expensive once the baby's born. If you insist on breastfeeding, wouldn't that save money? I clutched my stomach, feeling waves of tightness wash over me. Mortgage? This house was bought outright before our marriage, registered solely in my name. What mortgage are you talking about? My words struck like thunder, leaving Kevin and his mother's faces instantly drained of color. You're talking utter nonsense. The mother-in-law shrieked. This house was clearly bought by my son. You said it yourself at the wedding, this house is your joint property. I let out a cold laugh. To test whether Kevin truly loved me, I concealed my identity as the sole heir to a publicly listed conglomerate and pretended to be a girl from an ordinary family. This downtown flat was publicly presented as a property we bought with a loan, but in reality, the deed bears only my name. As for Kevin, he seems to have long since accepted this lie as reality. He and his family live in my house with a clear conscience, spending my money, and yet they turn around and boss me around. Tina, did pregnancy fry your brain? Kevin's face darkened to the extreme. Don't think carrying my child gives you free rein. Mark my words, you're having this baby whether you like it or not. And it's going to be breastfed. $200, take it or leave it. He finished speaking and pulled his mother toward the door. Stop right there, I said coldly. The sharp ache in my abdomen grew more intense, but I knew I had to resolve everything today. Kevin, let's get a divorce. The air seemed to freeze. Kevin whipped around, staring at me like I was a lunatic. What did you say? I said divorce, I repeated, enunciating each word clearly. I'm done with this life. The child will be born, but custody is mine. I don't need you to pay a single penny in child support. Grandma burst out laughing as if she'd heard the funniest joke ever, slapping her thigh dramatically. Oh my goodness, did I hear that right? You, the barren hen, finally got pregnant with my grandson, and now you dare to talk about divorce? Once you leave this family, who's going to want you with a child in tow? Mom, don't waste your breath on her. Kevin's eyes darkened menacingly. She's just trying to scare us. Tina, I'm giving you one last chance. Take back what you said and have the baby. Otherwise. Or else what? I straightened my back and met his gaze. Beat me up? Lock me away? Kevin, I've had enough. You know exactly how you and your mother have treated me since we got married. Every day, I cook and do laundry for your whole family while carrying this big belly. Even your sister Rita's dirty clothes have to be hand-washed by me. Your mom constantly insults me indirectly, calling me spoiled and a spendthrift. And you? You always have just one thing to say, she's my mom, you should give her some leeway. Well, I don't want to give her any leeway anymore. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Hello, is this Leo? It's Tina. Please gather your team and come to my place immediately. Yes, I want a divorce. The voice on the other end was respectful and prompt. Understood, Tina. We'll be there within 15 minutes. Kevin and his mother-in-law were completely dumbfounded. They never imagined I'd actually go through with it. And hire a lawyer? Tina. You're out of your mind. Kevin lunged to grab my phone, but I sidestepped him. The panic in his eyes was impossible to hide. Where did you get the money to hire a lawyer? Have you been hiding secret stashes from me? I stared at him, suddenly finding the whole thing utterly ridiculous. This was the man I once thought I could entrust my life to. In his eyes, there was never me, only money. That's none of your business, I said flatly. All you need to know is that as of today, we're done. Just then, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen, and a warm gush flowed from between my legs. My water had broken. I was going into labor. A wave of excruciating pain instantly swept through my entire body. Clutching the sofa, I broke out in a cold sweat. Seeing me like this, Kevin and his mother showed not a shred of concern. Instead, they wore smug smiles. Oh, of all times, it had to be now. Grandma crossed her arms, her voice dripping with schadenfreude. Tina, let me tell you this, if you dare file for divorce today, you'll be raising this child all by yourself. Our family won't lift a finger to help. Mom's right, Kevin said, his confidence returning. If you want to have my child, you'd better do as I say. Call your lawyer right now and tell him not to come. Otherwise, you'll just have to suffer through the pain at home. They thought they could control me by taking the child. They thought I couldn't survive without them. The pain left me almost speechless, but I gritted my teeth and forced out a few words through clenched jaws. You, dream on. With my last ounce of strength, I dialed another number. Hello, Max. My water broke. I'm at home. Yes, come right away. Max was our family driver and the person my father trusted most. After hanging up, I collapsed onto the sofa in pain, my vision blurring. Kevin and his mother-in-law were still ranting and raving beside me, their vicious words stabbing my ears like needles. I think she's faking it. Trying to force us to give in with this trick. Ignore her. Once the pain becomes unbearable, she'll beg us herself. I closed my eyes, conserving my strength, with only one thought in my mind, faster, faster. Less than 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang urgently. Kevin went to answer it impatiently, expecting some of my poor relatives to show up. The moment the door opened, he froze solid. Standing at the entrance was a group of men in suits, led by a sharp-looking elderly gentleman, followed by several bodyguards and 2 medical staff in white coats. Who are you looking for? Kevin stammered. Max didn't even glance at him as he rushed straight in. Seeing my condition, his expression changed drastically. Miss. How are you? The medical staff behind him immediately stepped forward, skillfully examining me before lifting me onto a stretcher. Miss? Kevin was utterly dumbfounded. This form of address, this whole scene, was completely beyond his comprehension. His mother-in-law was also speechless, her mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. Max shot them a cold glance, his eyes looking at them as if they were 2 pieces of trash. Kevin, right? Our mistress has decided to divorce you. Her legal team will be in touch shortly. From this moment on, this house and everything in it no longer concern you. Please gather your belongings and leave immediately before the lawyers arrive. After speaking, he escorted me downstairs in haste. Below, a black Rolls-Royce and a private hospital ambulance had been waiting for some time. I was carefully lifted into the ambulance, with Max sitting beside me, his face etched with worry. Miss, it's all my fault. I should have brought you back sooner. I shook my head, took his hand, and gave a weak smile. It's not your fault, Max. It's my own blindness. The ambulance screeched away. Through the car window, I took one last look at the house where I'd lived for 3 years. Kevin and his mother still stood dumbstruck at the doorway, like 2 comical statues. I knew that from the moment I left, their comfortable life was over for good. And I was about to embrace my new beginning. At the hospital, I was wheeled into the finest VIP delivery suite. A team of top-tier obstetricians and gynecologists from across the country stood ready. After hours of labor pains, I successfully delivered a son weighing 6 pounds 8 ounces. Both mother and child were in good health. When I hold my soft, plump son and feel his warm breath, all the pain and grievances vanish into thin air. This is my child, my one and only treasure. I named him Frank. Within days, my legal team had swiftly and decisively handled the divorce proceedings. Since the house was my premarital property, Kevin and his family were promptly evicted. It said they moved back into that old, cramped, 50-square-meter apartment. My mother-in-law was so furious she fell gravely ill, smashing things at home every day and berating me. Kevin was utterly panicked. He couldn't fathom how a housewife he once saw as utterly worthless could transform into someone he could never hope to match. He started frantically calling and texting me, but I ignored every single one. My postpartum care center is the most prestigious in the city, with professional nannies and nurses attending to me and the baby around the clock. No unauthorized personnel can get in. He couldn't find me, so he went to my former company to make a scene. Only to be told I'd resigned long ago. It was then that he belatedly realized how little he truly knew about me. He knew nothing of my family, nothing of my friends, and didn't even understand my real capabilities. He only knew that he had lost a free babysitter, a wife who never complained, and a ladder to high society that he could have had, yet pushed away with his own hands. After the full moon, I brought Frank back to my true home, a detached villa atop the mountain. This is where I truly belong. My parents passed away in an accident when I was very young, leaving me a vast family business. Over the years, it has been managed by the loyal Max and a team of professional managers. I married Kevin because of a chance encounter. That day when my car broke down, he happened to be passing by and called a tow truck for me. He wore a simple white shirt, his smile pure and bright, like a ray of sunshine illuminating my lonely world. To experience ordinary love, I concealed my identity and entered into a relationship with him, and eventually married him, as an orphaned girl. I naively believed that as long as there was love, material differences didn't matter. Looking back now, it seems laughable. If a man can't even give you the most basic respect and care, then no matter how big or perfect the promises he paints for you, they're nothing but a mirage. The first thing I did upon returning home was to set up Frank's nursery. I transformed the entire second floor into a dedicated play area for the child. Soft carpets, imported toys, and an entire wall of picture books. I hired the best nanny and early childhood educator to give Frank the best possible environment for his growth. Watching my son sleep soundly in his crib, my heart melted. Thankfully, I cut my losses in time. Thankfully, my child won't have to grow up in that calculating and cruel family. After settling everything, I met up with my best friend Rose for afternoon tea. Rose is the friend I grew up with, and the only person who knows all my secrets. When I decided to marry Kevin, she was the first to jump up and protest. "Tina, are you out of your mind? What do you see in that upstart? His poverty? His lack of hygiene?" Now she's staring at me with that "I told you so" look. See? I was right, wasn't I? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Selfishness and scheming are in the bones of every Phoenix man. I took a sip of coffee with a wry smile. I was just too naive. It's never too late to wake up. Rose patted my hand. "Without that piece of trash, you're the queen." "Oh, and your ex-husband's family? They're in a real mess now." "Oh? How so?" I raised an eyebrow. "What else can I say? You kicked me out of that big house, and now I'm back in this old, run-down place. Your ex-mother-in-law, they say she's been cursing me in the neighborhood every day, calling me a gold digger who ditched her and her son the moment I found someone better off. Your sister-in-law Rita isn't exactly a pushover either. Back when she was living off you, she lorded it over everyone at work and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Now that she's lost her backer, people are giving her a hard time. Word is she's about to get fired. As for Kevin..." Rose paused, a hint of amusement playing on her lips. "He still hasn't accepted reality. He's been telling everyone you're being kept by some rich guy, that's why you're so loaded. He even says once the baby's born, he'll demand a paternity test so he can get his hands on a big chunk of the inheritance. Listening to this, I could only think how absurd it all was. How could someone be so shameless? He wants a paternity test? I sneered. Fine. I'll wait. I'll see what he's got to fight me with. Exactly. Rose exclaimed indignantly. By the way, Tina, what are your plans next? You can't just stay a full-time mom forever, can you? I shook my head, a sharp gleam flashing in my eyes. Of course not. I've rested long enough. It's time to go back and reclaim what's rightfully mine. What I'm referring to is the conglomerate my father left behind. Over the years, though a team of professional managers has been running it, there are always some old-timers within the group who act like they own the place and cause trouble. Back then, I was lost in romantic fantasies and had no heart for the business. Now, for Frank's sake and for my own, I must rise again and become a true queen. The very next day, I arrived at the group headquarters as the largest shareholder. My sudden appearance caused a major stir among the company's top executives. Many people assume I'm just a spoiled rich kid who's uneducated and only knows how to spend money. At my first board meeting, several veteran directors ganged up to give me a taste of my own medicine. You're so young, you probably don't have a thorough understanding of the company's operations yet. We feel that the company's management should be entrusted to someone with more experience, said Director Jack. I sat in the seat of honor, my expression calm as I looked at him. Jack's right, I am indeed very young. I gave a slight smile, then changed the subject. But youth doesn't equate to incompetence. Before arriving, I reviewed the company's financial statements for the past 3 years. Jack, the overseas market division under your responsibility has posted losses for 3 consecutive quarters, with losses reaching 9 figures. Can you explain to me, is this what you call experience? The moment I finished speaking, the entire conference room fell dead silent. Jack's face instantly turned beet red. He hadn't expected me to go straight for him, especially with such precise data. For a moment, he was speechless, cold sweat breaking out on his brow. Well, that's because the global market conditions are unfavorable, coupled with exchange rate fluctuations, he stammered in defense. Is that so? I slid a document gently toward the center of the conference table. This is the market analysis report I worked on through the night, along with the overseas market expansion plan for the next 6 months. The report indicates that the root cause of our losses lies in outdated product positioning and severely lagging marketing strategies. And you, Jack, as the department head, bear responsibility for this. My gaze swept across every person in the room. My voice was quiet, yet carried an undeniable authority. Effective immediately, Jack is placed on temporary administrative leave. I will personally take over the overseas marketing department. Does anyone have any objections? The conference room fell silent, you could hear a pin drop. The directors who had been waiting to see me fail now lowered their heads, unable to meet my gaze. They finally realized that the young woman before them was no pushover they could manipulate at will. After the meeting, Max followed behind me, his face radiant with satisfaction. Miss, you did exceptionally well. If the master were alive today, he would be immensely proud of you. I smiled. Max, this is just the beginning. In the days that followed, I threw myself wholeheartedly into my work. By day, I'm decisive and ruthless at work, by night, I transform into a gentle mother, playing with Frank and reading him stories. Though life is hectic, it's incredibly fulfilling. I swiftly established myself at the company through decisive action. The reform proposals I put forward have all yielded remarkable results, and the company's stock price has soared. Those who once looked down on me now treat me with utmost respect. Meanwhile, Kevin's family life has descended into utter chaos. Without my financial support, Kevin's meager salary barely covers their mortgage on that old, cramped apartment, leaving little left over. His mother, accustomed to a life of luxury where every need was catered to, now worries daily about basic necessities like rice and cooking oil, her resentment boiling over. Rita, Kevin's sister-in-law, was officially fired from her job for causing trouble at work. The family of three crammed into a tiny space, their days filled with constant bickering and mutual resentment, making life chaotic and unbearable. Kevin finally reached his breaking point. He began to miss his former life, that spacious, bright home, that wife who catered to his every whim. He regretted his actions. He tried every means to track down my whereabouts, and eventually, somehow, he learned the address of my company. That afternoon, I had just finished a meeting when the front desk called to say a gentleman was looking for me. He hadn't made an appointment and was refusing to leave the lobby. I knew exactly who it was without even thinking. "Send him up," I instructed calmly. Some things simply had to be settled face to face. A few minutes later, there was a knock on my office door. "Come in." The door opened, and Kevin walked in. After months apart, he looked much more haggard, unshaven, his suit wrinkled and rumpled, all traces of his former confidence gone. He saw me and his eyes instantly reddened. "Tina." His voice was hoarse, tinged with a hint of pleading. "Can we talk?" I sat behind the large desk, staring at him coldly, as if he were a stranger. "What is there left to talk about between us?" "I know I was wrong, Tina. I really do." He rushed to stand before me. "It was all my mother. She was the one stirring things up. I was just momentarily blinded, that's why I said all those awful things. Please forgive me? Let's get back together. For the kids. Let's give them a complete family." "A complete family?" I felt like I'd heard the biggest joke ever. "Kevin, do you really think a family filled with manipulation, cruelty, and violence is a complete family? Do you think a man who won't even give his wife and child $200 for living expenses deserves to be called a father?" My words cut like a knife, stabbing deep into his heart. His face went pale, his lips trembling. I'll change. I'll treat you well. I'll give you my paycheck card." "No need," I interrupted him. "I don't need it anymore. Kevin, I only came to see you today to tell you one thing." I pulled a document from the drawer and tossed it in front of him. "This is a cease and desist letter. You and your mother have been spreading rumors about me being kept, severely damaging my reputation. I give you 3 days to issue a public apology. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court." Kevin stared at the document as if struck by lightning. He never imagined that my reason for meeting him wasn't to rekindle our old flame, but to sue him. You're suing me? Suing your former husband, the father of your child?" He looked at me in utter disbelief. "Once," I corrected. "The moment you told me to raise the child to his first birthday with $200, you ceased to be one." Kevin left my company in a daze. I thought he'd drop it there, but I underestimated his shamelessness. 2 days later, a video went viral online. In it, Kevin was kneeling outside my company building, tearfully denouncing my crimes. "Everyone, judge for yourselves. My wife, Tina, chairwoman of the Lynn Group, despised my poverty, climbed the social ladder, and abandoned her husband and child. She won't let me see my own son, and now she's suing me to ruin my reputation. I'm just an ordinary working-class person, I can't fight her. I can only beg everyone to help me seek justice." He portrayed himself as a pitiful husband abandoned by a wealthy family's wicked daughter, speaking with heartfelt sincerity and delivering a convincing performance. The video even included some of my personal photos, along with candid shots of me carrying Frank while visiting the postpartum care center. Uninformed netizens were instantly swept up in his narrative. Public opinion turned against me in an overwhelming wave of condemnation. How could this woman be so heartless? He's still the child's father, after all. So what if he's rich? Does that give him free rein to do whatever he wants? I feel for this guy. Being a wealthy man's wife really isn't easy. Lynn Group? The cosmetics company? I'm never buying their products again. The company's PR department contacted me immediately to discuss a response strategy. Rose was pacing like a caged animal, calling nonstop. Tina, check Weibo. That jerk Kevin actually played the victim. Everyone's attacking you online, and the company's stock is already plummeting. I remained uncharacteristically calm. Don't panic. Let him make a scene. The louder he screams, the harder he'll fall. I hung up the phone and stared at the vile comments on my computer screen, my gaze icy. Kevin, you brought this on yourself. I instructed the PR department to hold their fire, letting the backlash ferment for a full day. When the incident reached its peak, I leisurely posted a statement on the official Weibo account of Lin Group. The statement was simple, containing only two things. First, an audio recording. The recording captures the entire conversation from the day we divorced, when Kevin and his mother demanded I raise the child on $200, crystal clear. Here's $200 for this month. The baby's coming soon, so watch your spending. $200? Are you trying to feed a beggar? A sharp crack echoed. How dare you talk to my son like that? What's wrong with $200? In our day, raising a child didn't cost a dime. This recording exploded like a bombshell, instantly setting the entire internet ablaze. Second, it was a formal legal notice. The content constituted a formal lawsuit against Kevin for spreading false statements online that damaged my personal reputation and that of the Lin Group. Furthermore, I attached a scanned copy of the property deed for that apartment, which clearly states my name and bears the words sole ownership in bold characters. The entire internet exploded. Public opinion flipped instantly. Holy shit. What a shocking twist. Turns out the guy was lying. Raising a child to 1-year-old on $200? Is this guy even human? And he beats the kid? What a family of monsters. Living in a house your wife paid for outright, yet you gaslight her into breastfeeding to save money? What kind of century-old weirdo is this? Poor Tina. Marrying such trash is like having the worst luck for 8 lifetimes. Stand with Tina in her fight. Sue this scumbag to death. Netizens who had previously sympathized with Kevin swiftly turned their guns on him, lambasting him relentlessly. Kevin's personal information was soon dug up by the enraged online crowd. His company, his address, and even his past school scandals were all laid bare for all to see. He became a pariah, with everyone calling for his downfall. His company, eager to distance itself, issued a statement immediately firing him. His landlord, unable to tolerate the harassment, evicted his entire family. Kevin and his family were utterly reduced to homeless, destitute outcasts. He called me, crying and begging me to let him off the hook. Tina, I was wrong, I really was wrong. I shouldn't have been spouting nonsense online. Please drop the charges? If this keeps up, I'll be driven to death. Listening to his hoarse, desperate cries, I felt nothing inside. Now you realize your mistake? Too late. When you and your mom teamed up to bully me back then, did you ever think this day would come? My mom, she's in the hospital. Kevin choked out. She had a heart attack after seeing the online comments. She's in critical condition now, the doctors say, they say it's very serious. He tried to play on my sympathy by bringing up his mother-in-law's illness. Too bad I'm not the soft-hearted Tina I used to be. Oh, really? I said flatly. Well, I hope she gets better soon. If the medical bills are too much, I can offer a friendly contribution, $200. After saying that, I hung up and blocked all his contact information. The world finally felt peaceful. In the end, my mother-in-law didn't pull through. She passed away that very night. I learned the news the next day from the news. It said that Kevin caused a huge scene at the hospital, claiming his mother was literally talked to death by malicious online comments and demanding compensation from the platform and all netizens involved in the cyberbullying. This demand was obviously unreasonable, and no one paid him any attention. But his playing the victim card still prompted some overly compassionate souls to start morally blackmailing me. Sure, the man was at fault, but the deceased deserves respect. Isn't the woman being a bit too harsh? Exactly. She was once her mother-in-law, the child's grandmother. How could she be so cold-hearted? When will this cycle of revenge ever end? Where there's room to show mercy, show mercy. I scoff at such words. Cruel? Cold-blooded? When they treated me like a maid, when my mother-in-law struck me over a measly 200 yuan, why didn't they call me pitiful then? You never know how much it hurts until you've been through it yourself. I ignored the online commotion, focusing instead on company matters and caring for Frank. Day by day, Frank grew more adorable, his eyes and brows resembling mine, yet his nose and mouth bore a striking resemblance to Kevin's. Every time I see him, I feel grateful that I pulled him out of that quagmire. Without the Kevin family's harassment, my life is peaceful and fulfilling. Under my leadership, the company has thrived, launching several hit products and multiplying its market value several times over. I became a renowned businesswoman, frequently gracing the covers of financial magazines. Meanwhile, Kevin, after enduring the loss of his mother, unemployment, and cyberbullying, completely fell apart. He had no marketable skills and was all talk and no action, making it impossible for him to find a decent job. He could only scrape by on odd jobs and handouts from relatives. My sister-in-law Rita hasn't had it easy either. With her reputation ruined and no work experience, she could only find jobs as a waitress in small restaurants. She worked herself to the bone every day but barely made any money. They blamed all their misfortune on me. That day, I took Frank to a newly opened mall. As chairman of the Lin Group, which owns the mall, I stopped by to inspect it. I bought Frank lots of new clothes and toys, and the little guy was so happy he was jumping for joy. Just as I was about to leave, a figure both familiar and unfamiliar blocked my path. It was Rita. She wore a cheap waitress uniform, her face caked in heavy makeup that couldn't hide her haggard and resentful expression. "Tina, you bitch!" she screamed the moment she approached, drawing stares from everyone nearby. I frowned and shielded Frank behind me, unwilling to let him witness such an ugly scene. "Rita, please watch your language." "Clean?" Rita sneered, pointing her finger right at my nose. "You destroyed our family, and you expect me to be polite? My mom's dead, my brother lost his job, and now we don't even have a place to live. It's all because of you." Her shrill, piercing voice drew an ever-growing crowd of onlookers. Mall security quickly arrived on the scene, attempting to pull her away. "Let go of me." Rita struggled frantically. "Tina, don't think your money makes you special. I'm telling you, my brother won't let you off the hook. He said he'll make you regret this for the rest of your life." Watching her wild, frenzied state, I felt not a single ripple of emotion, only pity. "Whether I regret it or not is none of your concern. You'd be better off worrying about yourself," I said calmly. "And tell your brother this, if he dares to bother me again, next time it won't be as simple as a lawyer's letter." After that, I ignored her shouts and curses, picked up Frank, and walked straight to the parking lot under the escort of bodyguards. Once in the car, Frank seemed shaken by the scene, his little face was pale as he clung tightly to my neck. I kissed his forehead tenderly. "Don't be afraid, baby. Mommy's here." He buried his little face in the crook of my neck and gave a muffled ahm-hom. I sighed and started the car. I thought that would be the end of it, but Rita's words turned out to be prophetic. Kevin, like a rabid dog, began to take revenge on me. Knowing it wasn't easy to hurt me directly, he set his sights on the person I cherished most, my son, Frank. That afternoon, I was in the middle of an important video conference at the office when the nanny suddenly called in a panic. "Tina." "Oh no. Frank. Frank is gone." My mind went blank in an instant, a buzzing sound filling my head. "What did you say?" I cried out, the papers in my hand scattering across the floor. I was playing with Frank in the community garden. I just went to pick up a ball, and when I turned around, Frank was gone." The nanny's voice trembled with tears, filled with terror and self-reproach. I forced myself to stay calm, but my voice still trembled uncontrollably. "Call the police. Call them immediately." Then check the surveillance footage. Hurry. After hanging up, I stormed out of the conference room like a madman, not caring about anything else. Only one thought filled my mind: find Frank. My Frank can't be in danger. Max noticed my pale face and immediately followed. Miss, what's wrong? Frank. Frank is gone. Max's expression turned grim. He instantly pulled out his phone and mobilized every connection. The Lin family had to launch a citywide search. I sped home, running countless red lights. When I got home, the police were already there, reviewing the neighborhood surveillance footage. The footage came up quickly. In the video, a man wearing a baseball cap and mask seized the moment the nanny turned away, swiftly scooped up Frank, who was playing on the grass, and jumped into an unlicensed van before speeding off. Though his face was obscured, that silhouette, I'd recognize it even if I were turned to ashes. It was Kevin. Him. It really was him. A bone-chilling cold rose from my feet, instantly spreading throughout my body. The very thing I feared most had happened. Just then, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. My hands trembling, I pressed the answer button. Hello? Kevin's sinister laughter echoed from the other end. Tina, surprised? Your precious son is in my hands now. Kevin. You bastard. What have you done to Frank? I screamed at the top of my lungs. Calm down, Kevin's voice dripped with smug satisfaction. He's just fine, asleep. Want him to stay that way? Then do exactly as I say. What do you want? Money? I'll give you whatever amount you ask for. Just don't hurt him. Money? Of course I want money. Kevin sneered coldly. I want $1 billion. Cash. Old bills with non-sequential serial numbers. And I want you alone to deliver the money to my designated location. Don't call the police, or you'll be burying your son. 100 million. He really's asking for the moon. Fine, I agree. Give me the address. I said without hesitation. Don't rush, Kevin drawled. Wait for my call. Remember, no tricks. Your son's life is worth its weight in gold now. After saying that, he hung up. I slumped to the floor, drained of all strength. The police officer looked at me with a grave expression. Tina, you can't go. It's far too dangerous. The kidnappers are highly unstable. Going alone could easily result in losing both the hostage and the ransom. But, that's my son. I sobbed uncontrollably. Max helped me up, his eyes unwavering. Miss, don't panic. We'll go prepare the cash right now. But you can't go alone. Leave this matter to me. I knew Max's capabilities, but I still couldn't shake my unease. Time ticked by, each second a torture for me. I couldn't bear to imagine how Frank was doing. Had he woken up? Was he scared? Was he crying? That madman Kevin, would he hurt him? The sky gradually darkened. Kevin's call finally came through again. He specified a location, an abandoned chemical plant on the outskirts of town, and reiterated that I must go alone. Miss, let me handle this. Max looked at me. I'd been by the master's side for decades, I've seen it all. Rest assured, I'll bring Frank back safe and sound. I looked at Max and finally shook my head. No, Max. He specifically asked for me. If I don't go, he might hurt Frank. I wiped away my tears, stood up, and my gaze hardened with resolve. Besides, this is between him and me. It's only right that I settle it myself. I turned to the officer beside me. Officer, I appreciate your help. Please set up a perimeter around the chemical plant, but hold your fire. Wait until I rescue the child before you move in. The officer nodded. Tina, rest assured, we'll ensure your safety and that of your child. Here are the tracking device and listening device. Keep them close to your body. I took the items, drew a deep breath, and stepped out the door. The night is as dark as ink, the path ahead unknown. But I know this, For my son, I must press on. Kevin, you wait. If you dare touch a single hair on my son's head, I will make you pay with your blood. Following Kevin's instructions, I drove alone to the abandoned chemical plant on the outskirts of town. In the back seat sat several large suitcases stuffed with cash. Of course, most of it was counterfeit, only the top layer was genuine. The police and Max had prepared this for me. The night grew deeper, and the surroundings grew more desolate. The chemical plant loomed in the darkness like a giant beast ready to devour its prey. I parked the car at the factory gate and, following Kevin's instructions, carried the box step by step into the facility. The factory reeked of pungent chemicals, littered with rusted machinery and pipes. Kevin! I'm here. I brought the money. Where's my son? I shouted. My voice echoed eerily through the empty warehouse. Heh, you're quick off the mark. A cold voice echoed from the second floor. I looked up to see Kevin standing by the balcony railing, cradling the unconscious Frank in his arms. Beside him stood a woman. It was Rita. Bring the money upstairs. Kevin gestured toward the stairs with his chin. I hauled the heavy box up the creaking metal stairs, step by step. How's my son? My heart ached as I looked at Frank's closed eyes. Don't worry, I just slipped him some sleeping pills. He won't die. Kevin's eyes burned with madness and venom. Tina, you never saw this coming, did you? Even you, Miss Lynn the High and Mighty, have met your day. Bro, cut the crap. Just grab the money and get out of here. Rita urged from the side. I set the boxes down on the floor and opened one, revealing stacks of cash inside. The money's here. Hand over the child. Kevin stared at the boxes full of cash, his eyes widening as his breathing quickened. He handed Frank to Rita and then lunged at the cash box like a madman, stuffing money into his coat. My money, all my money. Ha 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 ha. I'm rich. I took the opportunity to inch closer to Rita, trying to take the child from her arms. Rita took a wary step back, glaring at me with fury. Hold it right there. Once we've verified the money's authenticity, we'll return this little bastard to you. The words little bastard ignited the rage within me. I dropped the act, my gaze instantly turning icy. Rita, I gave you a chance. Just then, Frank, who had been asleep, suddenly opened his eyes. Not only did he not cry or fuss, but with an agility uncharacteristic of his age, he opened his mouth and bit down on Rita's wrist. Ah! Rita cried out in pain, instinctively letting go. I lunged forward in a single bound, catching Frank securely and pulling him tightly into my arms. Baby! Mommy! Frank's little face showed no trace of fear, instead, he flashed me a triumphant grin. Rita and Kevin were both dumbfounded. How did he? You think I'd really put my son in danger? I sneered coldly, pulling a miniature stun gun from Frank's clothing. Just moments ago, this very device had instantly paralyzed Rita. Frank, however, had not been drugged at all. From the moment he was taken away, I tracked his location in real time through the locator on his clothes. The smartwatch on his wrist also remained in constant communication. My son and I had been putting on an act all this time. You two bastards, you're as good as dead and don't even know it. No sooner had I spoken than the factory gates burst open. Countless beams of bright flashlights flooded in, accompanied by stern shouts. Freeze! Police! Fully armed SWAT officers poured in from all directions, surrounding the entire factory building so tightly that not a single person could slip through. Kevin and Rita instantly turned ashen. The police? You called the cops? Kevin stared at me in disbelief. What else could I do? I backed away step by step, cradling my son until we reached safety. Did you really think I'd be stupid enough to come here alone to get myself killed? Tina. You poisonous bitch. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Kevin let out a desperate growl, snatched an iron bar nearby, and charged straight at me. Bang! A gunshot rang out. It wasn't the police who fired. The bullet struck Kevin's wrist with pinpoint accuracy, sending the iron bar clattering to the ground. He let out a piercing scream, clutching his wrist as he collapsed in agony. At the factory entrance, Max slowly lowered his gun, its muzzle still puffing blue smoke. Behind him trailed dozens of Lynn family bodyguards, each with a stern expression and an intimidating presence. "Touch our miss or Frank, and you're asking for death," Max's voice was as cold as ice. Kevin and Rita collapsed completely to the ground, their faces etched with utter despair. They knew it was over. Awaiting them will be the full force of the law and the Lynn family's relentless vengeance. Kevin and Rita were sentenced to severe penalties for multiple offenses, including kidnapping and extortion. Kevin received a life sentence, meaning he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Rita was sentenced to 15 years. This outcome was deeply satisfying. After that incident, no one dared to mess with Frank and me anymore. My life finally returned to complete tranquility. I devoted more energy to the company and to being there for my son as he grew up. Frank seemed unfazed by the kidnapping incident, remaining as lively, cheerful, and clever as ever. But he became clingier than before, as if afraid I might leave him again. To make it up to him, I turned down many unnecessary social engagements and made sure to leave work on time every day to be with him. We'd build blocks together, read picture books together, and chase each other around the garden. Every time I saw his innocent smile, I felt that everything I did was worth it. Time flew by, and before I knew it, Frank was old enough to start kindergarten. I selected the best international kindergarten in the city for him. On the first day of school, I personally took him to the school. At the kindergarten entrance, I saw an unexpected person. Rose. She was holding the hand of a delicate little girl, chatting with the teacher. "Rose?" I called out tentatively. Rose turned around, saw me, and froze for a moment before breaking into a delighted smile. "Tina. What are you doing here?" "I'm dropping my son off for school." "What about you?" "Me too. This is my daughter, her nickname is Anna." Rose pulled me aside and lowered her voice. "I'm divorced." I was taken aback. "When did that happen? Why haven't you mentioned it?" Rose gave a wry smile. "Just last month. He cheated on me, and I caught him red-handed. I couldn't be bothered with any nonsense, I made him leave with nothing." Her tone was calm, as if she were recounting something that had nothing to do with her. But I knew deep down, she must have been hurting. "Are you okay?" I asked, looking at her with concern. What could possibly be wrong? "I ditched that jerk, now the sky's the limit." Rose winked at me. "I'm a golden single rich woman now. Countless young studs are lining up for me. But what about you? Still flying solo after all these years?" I smiled. "I'm not alone. I have Frank." "That's different," Rose said, poking my forehead. "You should think about yourself too. Look, we're both single moms now, and our kids are in the same class. We could hang out more and look out for each other." "Sure thing," I readily agreed. And just like that, Rose and I became kindergarten mom buddies. We often picked up and dropped off our kids together, attended school parent-child events together, and vented about our respective ex-husbands together. Two single moms, raising two adorable kids, managed to make their lives quite fulfilling. One day, the kindergarten held a parent-child sports day. Rose and I both participated. In the three-legged race, Rose and I worked together seamlessly, pulling far ahead of the rest. Frank and Anna cheered us on from the sidelines, their little faces flushed with excitement. Just as we were nearing the finish line, a man on the adjacent track suddenly accidentally stumbled and crashed into me. I couldn't dodge in time and was about to be knocked over. At that critical moment, a strong hand steadied me by the waist. "Careful," a deep, magnetic voice murmured in my ear. I looked up and met a pair of deep, piercing eyes. He was an exceptionally handsome man, with chiseled features and an elegant, scholarly demeanor. He too was holding a child, a handsome little boy. "Thank you," I said as soon as I regained my footing. "You're welcome." the man smiled faintly. My name is Ben. I'm Bob's dad. The little boy in his arms peeked out and waved at me. Hello, Auntie. Hello, I replied with a smile. Just then, Rose walked over, her face lit up with curiosity. Oh, the hero saving the damsel in distress, Ben chuckled, his gaze lingering on me with a hint of subtle admiration. It was my pleasure to study Tina, I paused, taken aback. You know me? Tina is a household name in the business world, Ben said with a warm, sincere smile. I recently returned to China to take over the family business. I look forward to learning from Tina in the future. It suddenly dawned on me, there really has been major news in the business world lately. They say the heir to the Gu Group, who's been living overseas for years, has returned and is preparing to make a big splash in the domestic market. I never imagined it would be the person standing right before me. And even more surprising, our children attend the same kindergarten. Would you call that fate? After the parent-child sports day, Ben proactively added me on WeChat. His reasoning was sound: if anything comes up with the kids at school, it'll be easier for us parents to stay in touch. I didn't refuse. Since then, our interactions have gradually increased. He invites me for coffee under the guise of discussing parenting tips and dines with me under the pretext of project collaboration. He's an exceptionally intelligent man with impeccable tact. His approachability never feels intrusive, instead, it's like a gentle spring breeze, nourishing without fanfare. He is highly knowledgeable and witty, and chatting with him is always a pleasure. He is also a very attentive father. He remembers what Frank likes to eat and what he dislikes. He prepares identical toys for Frank and Bob, never showing favoritism. Frank and Bob have become good friends, and the two little ones often arrange to play together. Sometimes when I'm swamped with work, Ben will volunteer to pick up both kids from school, take them out to eat, and bring them to the playground. He's like the perfect husband and father, filling that missing piece in my life. Rose has told me more than once, Tina, I think this Ben is a great catch, good family background, good character, handsome, and he treats you and Frank well. He's practically the perfect man. You'd better act fast, or some other vixen will snatch him up, and you'll have nowhere to cry. I said, nothing's set in stone yet, but deep down, my heart stirred. Truth be told, I do have feelings for him. But I'm afraid. After a failed marriage, I'm like a bird startled by a bowstring, too scared to step back into the whirlpool of love. I'm afraid of misjudging people again, afraid of getting hurt once more. More importantly, I'm afraid Frank will be affected. Ben seemed to see through my worries. He never pressured me, just quietly treated me well and looked after Frank. With his actions, he gradually melted my frozen heart. That day, I received an unexpected call. It was from the prison. Is this Ms. Tina? Your ex-husband, Kevin, is in critical condition in prison. He wishes to see you one last time before he dies. I held the phone, silent for a long time. Kevin. It had been so long since I'd thought of that name. Never imagined I'd hear news about him again in this way. What kind of illness does he have? I asked calmly. Late-stage liver cancer. I hung up the phone, my feelings tangled. To be honest, I no longer harbor any hatred toward him. What remains is only indifference. But he is, after all, Frank's biological father. Though he never fulfilled his duties as a father for a single day. I hesitated for a long time, but ultimately decided to see him one last time. Let this be the final chapter for that troubled past. I told no one and went to the prison alone. In the visiting room, I saw Kevin. He was emaciated beyond recognition, his face sallow and gaunt, drained of all vitality, nothing like the man he once was. Seeing me, a flicker of light ignited in his cloudy eyes. You're here. His voice rasped like a worn bellows. I nodded and sat down across from him. You wanted to see me. What is it? I know I'm not going to make it. Kevin gasped with difficulty. The biggest mistake I ever made in my life was losing you. 2 tears of regret slid down the corners of his eyes. If I hadn't been such a jerk back then, if I'd treated you right, would we still be together now? Would our son call me Dad? I looked at him, my heart unmoved. There are no ifs. Kevin, you chose your own path. Yeah. He gave a bitter laugh. It's all my own fault. My mom's dead, my sister's still in jail, our whole family's ruined. It's retribution, pure and simple. He began coughing violently, as if trying to cough up his heart and lungs. I have only one request, he said, staring at me with his last ounce of strength. Could you let me see the child one last time? I fell silent. Should I let him see Frank? I didn't want that man's ugliness to taint Frank's pure world. But seeing the flame of life about to extinguish within him, my heart softened. I'll give you his photo. That was the utmost kindness I could muster. A flicker of gratitude passed through Kevin's eyes before fading away. Fine. He murmured, his gaze growing unfocused. Visiting hours were over. I stood up, ready to leave. Tina. He called out suddenly. I stopped, not turning back. I'm sorry. Those were his final words to me. I didn't respond, walking straight out of the visiting room. The moment the door closed, I heard heart-wrenching sobs echoing from inside. Stepping out of the prison, the sunlight was blinding. I tilted my head back and exhaled a long breath. It was all over. After returning from prison, I fell seriously ill. Perhaps the pent-up frustration that had been bottled up inside me for years finally dissipated completely after seeing Kevin for the last time, and my body relaxed along with it. I rested at home for a week. During this time, Ben visited me almost every day. He would bring soup he'd cooked himself, share amusing stories he'd heard, and play with Frank and Bob downstairs so I could rest undisturbed. He never asked what had happened, he simply stayed by my side in silence. This quiet tenderness brought me immense peace of mind. After recovering, the first thing I did was have Frank's photo delivered to the prison through my lawyer. It was, in a way, fulfilling Kevin's final wish. After getting this done, I felt like a heavy burden had been lifted off my shoulders, and I felt lighter all over. My relationship with Ben also grew closer because of this illness. We started dating like a normal couple. He'd take me to concerts, art galleries, and street food stalls. He'd remember my menstrual cycle, preparing ginger tea and heating pads for me. He'd take every casual remark I made to heart, then quietly make it happen for me. Being with him, I feel like I've turned back into that cherished little girl again. It turns out, being loved is such a blissful feeling. Frank adores Ben too. He calls him uncle in his baby voice and eagerly shares his toys with him. Sometimes, watching Ben, Frank, and Bob play and roughhouse on the lawn, I even get the illusion that we are a family of 4. Today is my birthday. Ben said he had a surprise for me. He reserved the entire sky-high restaurant, which was adorned with pink roses and balloons, creating a romantic atmosphere straight out of a fairy tale. Frank and Bob, dressed in smart little suits, looked like 2 little flower boys. Rose was there too, watching me with a suggestive smile. Tina, you'd better seize the opportunity today, she said. I gave a slightly embarrassed chuckle. During dinner, Ben suddenly dropped to one knee and pulled out a velvet box. He opened it to reveal a dazzling diamond ring. Tina. He gazed at me with deep affection, his eyes brimming with starlight. I know you've been hurt and are cautious about relationships. I won't pressure you in any way. I just want you to know that meeting you is the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. I love you, and I love Frank. I hope to have the chance to care for both of you for the rest of your lives. Give me a chance, will you? In the restaurant, the melodious sound of a violin filled the air. The surrounding diners were drawn to the commotion, casting sympathetic glances their way. Frank and Bob stood nearby, clapping their hands excitedly. Marry him. Marry him. Rose joined in the cheering. I looked at the man before me, saw the sincerity and love in his eyes, and took in everything he'd prepared for me behind him. my eyes gradually welled up with tears. I thought I'd never believe in love again for the rest of my life. But Ben's arrival showed me I was wrong. It wasn't that love was bad, I'd just loved the wrong person before. I reached out my hand and choked out, "I do." Ben's face lit up with a radiant smile. With trembling hands, he slipped the ring onto my finger, then stood up and pulled me into a tight embrace. All around us, thunderous applause and well-wishes erupted. Frank and Bob ran over too, wrapping their arms around our legs from either side. "We have a new dad." I held Ben close, looking at the two most important men in my life, tears of happiness streaming down my face. It turns out happiness really does arrive late, but it never fails to show up. Ben and my wedding plans were quickly put on the agenda. The Gu family is a long-established clan with deep-rooted traditions, yet they are remarkably open-minded and kind. Ben's parents showed no hesitation whatsoever about welcoming me, a remarried woman with a child, as their daughter-in-law. Instead, they showered me with affection and care. They said that as long as Ben was happy and we were content, nothing else mattered. They treated Frank as their own son, giving him gifts identical to those for their real grandson Bob, never showing favoritism. This respect and acceptance allowed me to let go of every last trace of hesitation in my heart. Our wedding was grand and magnificent. Nearly every prominent figure in the city attended. At the ceremony, I wore a pristine white wedding gown, arm in arm with Max, as we walked step by step toward my groom. Max, like a true father, handed me over to Ben with tears in his eyes. "Ben, our little miss is now in your care. You must treat her well." "Max, rest assured," Ben gripped my hand tightly and solemnly promised, "I will spend my entire life loving her and protecting her." Before everyone's witness, we exchanged rings and pledged our lifelong commitment. Frank and Bob, our flower boys, looked adorable in matching little tuxedos, like two little angels. After the wedding, the four of us went to the Maldives for a month-long honeymoon. Sunshine, sand, and waves. Ben and I stroll hand in hand along the shore. Two children chase each other playfully behind us, their laughter ringing clear. This must be what they mean by peaceful days. After returning from our honeymoon, life settled back into its normal rhythm. I remained the chairman of the Lin Group, while Ben continued to manage his Gu Group. We were partners in business, fighting side by side, and lovers in life, supporting each other through thick and thin. We have integrated certain operations of the two companies, combining our strengths to create greater commercial value. The outside world says we are the most enviable power couple in the business world. Frank and Bob, too, grew up healthy and happy, surrounded by love and companionship. They were brothers and best friends. They went to school together, did their homework together, and got into mischief together. Ben is a very dedicated father. He plays ball with them, teaches them chess, and tells them bedtime stories. He gives Frank the fatherly love he's been missing. Sometimes, Frank whispers in my ear, "Mom, can I call Uncle Dad?" I smiled and ruffled his hair. "Of course you can. He is your dad, after all." With my permission, Frank gathered his courage and timidly called out Dad when Ben came home. Ben froze for a moment, then his eyes welled up with tears. He scooped Frank up in his arms and kissed him repeatedly on the cheek, his voice choked with emotion. "Oh, my dear son." Standing nearby, I watched the tender father-son moment unfold, feeling my heart overflow with happiness. I finally understand that a complete family isn't defined by blood ties. It's defined by love. As long as there is love, warmth, and laughter, that is the most complete and happiest home. Married life is quiet and warm. Ben has healed all my past wounds with his love. He has made me believe that beautiful love and marriage truly exist in this world. On weekends, our family often heads out to the countryside for picnics or visits nearby farms to experience rural life. Watching our two children run through the fields, Ben and I exchange a smile, our eyes filled with an unbreakable tenderness. Rose also found her own happiness. Her partner is a university professor, gentle and refined, who treats both her and Anna with great kindness. Our two families often gather together. The adults chat over tea while the children play nearby, creating a warm and joyful atmosphere. That day, we were barbecuing in the backyard when Max suddenly approached with a grave expression. "Miss, there's something I feel I should tell you." "What is it, Max?" Word came from the prison. "Kevin passed away 3 days ago." My hand holding the skewered meat paused. Though I'd anticipated it, hearing the news firsthand stirred an indescribable feeling within me. It wasn't sorrow, nor was it joy, just a sense of final closure. Ben sensed my unease, walked over, and took my hand. "It's all in the past," he murmured softly. I smiled at him. Yes, it's all in the past. The man who once left such a deep mark on my life had finally, completely vanished. He was like a severe cold in my life, though it made me miserable for a long time, it would eventually heal. And Ben was the very remedy that healed me. That evening, I told Frank about it. I didn't want to keep anything from him. Frank was grown up now, he had the right to know his origins. I held him close and told him the story of Kevin and me in the gentlest voice I could muster. From how we met, to how we fell in love, to the disappointment and the parting. Frank listened quietly the whole time, never interrupting. When I finished speaking, he lifted his head and looked at me with clear eyes. "Mom, even though he's the one who gave birth to me, Ben is the only father I have." His words instantly brought tears to my eyes. I held him tightly. "Good boy, my good boy. I am grateful that I gave him a nurturing environment filled with love. I am grateful that he harbors no resentment toward the world because of that irresponsible man. He has grown into a little man whose heart is filled with sunshine and love. This matters more than anything else." Several more years passed, and Frank and Bob both started elementary school. The two little guys were like me, one steady and wise, a top student in his class, the other like Ben, sunny and cheerful, the school's athletic star. The brothers' bond was so strong, they were practically one person. The bond between Ben and me has deepened with time, growing ever more rich and satisfying. We've hardly ever argued. Even when we disagree, we sit down and talk things through calmly. We respect each other, understand each other, and support each other. Today marks the 50th anniversary celebration of the Lynn Group. At the ceremony, I announced a significant decision. Effective immediately, I will formally step down from my position as chairman of the Lynn Group. My son, Frank, will succeed me in this role going forward. Of course, this is merely a symbolic announcement. Frank is still young, and the company remains under my management alongside our professional team. But I hope that by doing this, I can set a goal for him and help him understand his future responsibilities. I also announce that I will establish a charitable foundation dedicated to helping single mothers and their children who have been harmed in their marriages. I want to use my own experiences to help more people, to let them know that even if they fall, they still have the right and the ability to get back up. My decision has received everyone's support. Ben stood beside me, looking at me with pride. My wife is the most wonderful woman in the world. After the celebration, our family returned home. Frank and Bob were already asleep. Ben and I sat on the balcony lounge chairs, sipping red wine and gazing at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" Ben asked me. I leaned against his shoulder and whispered softly, "I'm wondering what my life would be like now if I hadn't chosen to get divorced back then." "Maybe, a bitter, haggard woman?" Ben joked. I laughed at his teasing. "Yeah. Every day, fighting tooth and nail over those $200. Then pinning all my hopes on the kid, pushing him to make something of himself, to prove me right." Thankfully, Ben squeezed my hand. "You never lived that kind of life. You chose the bravest and most right path." I looked at him, my eyes crinkling with a smile. "Yes. Thankfully, I met you." We said nothing more, simply holding each other in silence, savoring this moment of peace and beauty. My life once hit rock bottom. But now, I have a successful career, a happy family, adorable children, and a man who loves me as if I were his life. My life is already complete. Time flies, and the years pass swiftly. Frank and Bob have both grown into adults. Frank lived up to my expectations. After graduating from one of the world's top business schools, he returned home to take over the Lin Group. He possesses greater drive and foresight than I do. Under his leadership, the Lin Group has reached unprecedented heights. Bob, meanwhile, pursued his passion and became an outstanding architectural designer, sweeping all major international awards at a young age. The two brothers, one a powerhouse in the business world, the other a rising star in the art scene, are the most renowned young talents in the capital. As for Ben and me, we can finally lay down the burdens we've carried and embrace the retirement life we've longed for. We handed the company over to our children, bought a yacht, and set off on a journey around the world. We've been to the snow-capped mountains of Switzerland, the Aegean Sea in Greece, and the vast savannas of Africa. Hand in hand, we've seen the sights of the world. Our hair has gradually turned white. Wrinkles have crept onto our faces. But the way we look at each other is still filled with love. Today marks our silver wedding anniversary. Our children threw us a grand party. Family and friends gathered together in celebration. Frank and Bob both brought their girlfriends along. Both girls were exceptionally kind and wonderful. Seeing how happy they looked, Ben and I couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. The highlight of the party was the gift Ben gave me. It was a thick photo album. Inside, it captured every moment of our journey together, from when we first met to the present day. There were pictures from our first date, photos from our wedding, and images of us traveling with our children. Every photograph holds a beautiful memory. Turning to the last page reveals a recent photo of us together. In the picture, we're snuggled close, beaming with joy. Beneath the photo, Ben had written a line in his own hand, "Hold your hand, grow old with you. Tina, I love you, from black hair to white." My tears could no longer be held back and spilled over. I threw myself into his arms and cried like a child. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for giving me a home. Thank you for loving me all these years. Ben held me close, gently patting my back. Silly girl, I'm the one who should be thanking you. Thank you for agreeing to marry me. Thank you for making me the happiest man in the world.